Hi, I'm Greg Uland with Reynolds, and this is Connected Live at the NADA show in Las Vegas. This conversation, I get to sit down with Sean Patronis. Sean is the Chief Information Security Officer at Proton Dealership IT and Cybersecurity. Sean, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely. So, Sean, you've been around the block a time or two. You know as much about cybersecurity as probably anybody, certainly that I know, potentially in this building. So, wanted to start just diving in and getting from you, what are some of the biggest threats right now to dealers when it comes to cybersecurity, right? What are some of the trends you're seeing? What are the top things that are having an impact?
So the top threats we're seeing right now is threats to the identity of the users of the dealership. So think of identity as the new perimeter. That's why I like to think about it, at least. So that's
hang on, I'm going to pause you. I'm probably going to pause you a lot.
That's fine.
Because I'm going to go from the layman's perspective and just make sure everybody understands. So the perimeter meaning, right? Well, it could be two things, so I'll clarify with you, but either the physical perimeter where maybe you have a fence around something, right? Sure. Or the digital perimeter where historically you've always had a firewall that would protect.
New digital perimeter is what they said. Should I say that, clarify?
No, you're good. You're good. So just that perimeter that would traditionally be a firewall. So you're saying the identity of the users is really the new kind of perimeter.
New firewall. It's new perimeter. It's email addresses. That's the identity you log into your third-party applications with. That might be centralized through some login, right? Some login provider that you may have from your DMS or from yourself, something like that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So you think about identity, and that's kind of the really the biggest thing to protect. So how does identity get compromised? Like, what are some of the vulnerability points that that you see? Maybe the most common vulnerability points.
Yeah. So what we typically see, it's a similar attack path that we've seen in the past. It's going to be phishing emails that come in, compromised users, and generally those users that are compromised are the ones that don't have multi-factor authentication or 2FA set up, right, on their identities, right? Somebody's stolen their credentials, they've reused same username or passwords at all these different places. Now that's getting utilized by the bad guys. And so once they get access to that online identity, once they're using it, now they're into all your applications, right? Because maybe the password hygiene has been bad. Maybe the use of that identity has been incorrectly provisioned or permissioned at whatever application it is. Yeah.
So MFA, you mentioned, MFA, 2FA, and it's utilized not enough, but a lot, right? It should be 100%, but it is utilized fairly widely. Everybody, I think, at least knows what it is, right? Knows in some form or fashion how to use it. But
or how they don't want to use it sometimes because it's bothering them, right? Maybe it's prompting them too much. Even.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. It can feel annoying, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I guess maybe this is a silly question, but how effective is MFA? Because it seems like, yes, it's another layer of, a password essentially.
Sure.
But it can't be foolproof, right?
Yeah. Almost nothing is foolproof, right? We're trying to make better solutions, better protections for security that also doesn't hinder business at the same time. It's better than not having it 100%, just basic MFA. You don't want to reuse your username and password for your bank and then not have some secondary factor of protection, right? All your money's there. That's where you and I both, want to protect all of the money that we make. And same with the dealerships, right? They want to protect all of their resources, all their data they have. I mean, they're required to protect it, right? So MFA is one protection layer they can add. Now, there's ways that you can implement MFA that's not so annoying. Maybe use some intelligence technology to help make that less frequent of an annoyance, right? Something that we can fingerprint certain identities and users. Okay, where do they normally log in from? Is this typical for that user? Do we need a challenge for MFA? Some logic, some intelligence, if you will, into that. So I think that's the direction it's going to go. That should go for those accounts to protect that identity.
So as an example, like a tangible example in a dealership world, I'm logging into, my CRM, right? And I'm at my desk at the dealership, and I have a username and password, and I always log in from there every single day, or Monday through Saturday, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. For a 30-day period, or maybe it's a 14-day period, or whatever.
Maybe it's a 90-day period. It depends.
If you log in from that same device in that same location, you're good. right? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. So that's we don't need to prompt you for MFA. I mean, is it more secure to prompt you every time? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's also more of a hindrance to the business when you're trying to log in and do something, right? You want to get your customers out. But let's say that same account tries to log in, because CRM's web-based now, right? All these folks logs in from your business is California, logs in from New York City.
Right.
Then what do? We prompt for MFA.
Yeah.
Right. So that I think adding that layer of logic and intelligence, even a step further, let's say that same scenario happens, but you're on your laptop.
Sure.
You've logged in from the dealership in California. You get on an airplane, you go to New York because you got some meetings.
Yeah.
You log back in, same laptop, same browser. We shouldn't prompt you for MFA there. And if the intelligence that we have can keep that from happening, prompting for MFA, we know it's your laptop. We know it's your browser session. We know it's fingerprinted to you and your identity.
Yeah.
That identity is not protected. We don't need to prompt you for MFA there.
Yeah.
But let's say it is in New York and it's from a different device. Now you log in from the business center in the hotel because your laptop.
Or maybe you got a new phone.
A new phone.
Right. Yeah.
We're going to prompt you, right? Because now you're not in the right location. Your fingerprint for your account looks different, right? So that's the intelligence layer that I think the industry is going to, and they should. That's what we do.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So maybe anything else stand out to you? So identity obviously is a big one. Anything else stand out to you as common vulnerabilities?
Yeah, so we've been seeing attacks lately with people not patching their firewalls, and a lot of times these dealerships have firewalls that have VPN capabilities, right?
Yeah.
So they're remote workforce. The same example we just used a moment ago.
Yep.
You're in New York. You want to get in and log into your network at the dealership. You use a VPN client. It's connected to your firewall.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times those firewalls haven't been patched or haven't been patched fast enough, and they're vulnerable. And so there's threat actors out there, and what they're doing is they're connecting in, exploiting those vulnerabilities, and bypassing either your login or bypassing the multi-factor authentication you may already have enabled because you haven't patched your firewall. And now they're VPN into your network, and they're just like they're Greg, but on a different laptop from a different location on your network. And that's like the initial part of a compromise. So we've seen that quite a few times over the past year.
So that's where
in the industry.
So that's when an identity would be compromised, and then there's also a vulnerability in the firewall, so they don't need to do MFA essentially.
That's right. So they're in some cases, in a handful of the situations, they didn't even have MFA enabled on their firewalls. Right?
Yeah.
So the identity was compromised. A vendor account was a compromise because the vendor is maybe doing some business for you.
Sure.
They didn't have MFA set up.
Yeah.
So that we've seen that happen. Also, the case where there was a correctly configured firewall, but it wasn't patched and updated, and there was a vulnerability in the firewall that let them bypass the MFA altogether that was set up because they didn't know there was a patch to be had. Right.
So what's an example? I think for me, you say you need to patch the firewall. I generally understand what you're saying, but I don't know technically what that means. So when you say patch a firewall for somebody that maybe isn't as technical, like what does that mean? What are we doing?
So ideally, that means your IT provider, your MSP, if you have one, or your IT team on your dealership is looking for the latest software to be installed on the firewall. So think of a firewall. A lot of these things are like computers, right? They have an installation package that updates to the latest versions of security features and fixes any problems that it has. So just like your Windows computers in your dealership, they have patches and they do Windows updates all the time. It's the same thing, but on a firewall. Some firewalls will have automatic updates, and I would totally recommend they turn those on. And if you can deal with automatic updates, that's the best way to go. Some firewalls don't, and some firewalls that dealerships have they don't have support, so maybe they're not allowed to install those patches because they haven't paid for the support. So it runs the gamut. So just think about it like installing the latest update on your phone or on your computer.
Okay, all right, that's fair. All right, so I want to shift into, obviously we hear a lot about AI. We hear a lot about AI and cyber attacks.
Yeah.
The simplest example that sticks with me is, it used to be there was a person who had to send an email to a person to get them to do something.
That's
right.
Yeah.
And in today's world, that's not the case, right? An AI agent can generate an email and send it to hundreds of thousands of people, right, at the same time, and then it can iterate on that email without human interaction at all, right? So there's just a lot more. I'll call it attacks, but a lot more punches being thrown, right? A lot more at bats for hacker to penetrate something.
Yeah,
So
one guy can make these agents that bat the ball a lot.
yeah. Yeah. So when we think about that, what are we seeing? What are you seeing right now when it comes to implementation of AI in cyber attacks? And where are some of the vulnerabilities there?
Yeah. So what we see now is AI is being used by everybody, the good guys, the bad guys. It doesn't matter. The bad guys use it as a force multiplier. The good guys use it as a force multiplier too. So one guy now can, let's say English isn't their first language. Now they can generate these emails, make them sound like English is their first language. Before, the way you spotted a phishing email was common, misspellings, grammar is wrong, all that stuff. Now when they have a phishing email, they can generate 20 different versions of the same mail, make it sound good enough that it's convincing. Maybe it's a sales link. Maybe it's convincing you that you need to click on something that you shouldn't, right? So the bad guys now can do that really fast compared to before. Before they actually had to hand jam each one, type each character. Now it's let AI do it for them. And they let AI do it in, they're talking to their AI in their language, generating it in English, German, French, doesn't matter.
Sure.
Right? It can generate all these same messages, same plan, same attacks, and then send those out and hopefully get catch a lot of fish with their lures. If you know what I'm saying. Yeah. So that's one way that the bad guys use. Another way is they're starting to automate attacks with AI. And just this last year we saw fully autonomous generation of attacks. I think one of the vendors we use at Proton, they had a big write-up on it in the industry, and they caught the first instance of soup to nuts, beginning to end, AI, everything from the generation of the emails, from the exploitation of the local computers, all the way to the compromise of everything and the persistence and the deployment of ransomware.
Wow.
All in one AI. So that's kind of scary when you think about it. It's amazing and scary at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the scary part to me is the speed that happens in, right? So you think about, again, you go back, 5 years, I don't know what the time frame is, you tell me, but each one of those steps had to be done by a person.
That's right.
There was something that had to happen by an individual, where in today's world, it can happen virtually, I would imagine instantaneously, if it's all AI agents acting.
I think that timeline from, let's say, 5 years ago, right, when it was mostly manual, that was weeks to get to the point of ransomware, maybe a month, depending on how big the network is, the systems are, how many endpoints. Now, that one attack I just talked about, and I don't remember off the top of my head exactly, but the range now, we're talking minutes for the first part, hours for the exploitation part, and then 1 day, 2 days for the ransomware part. We're talking, they took something that took weeks and months to minutes and days, and that's just going to get smaller into seconds and minutes. I think it just depends on timing and everything else. So AI has allowed them to do that, and the bad guys are going to continue to develop and make their systems better and more resilient. Yeah.
So terrifying.
It is.
But the flip side of that, right? So using AI to combat cyber attacks. I think about. Do you remember that comic? And it eventually ended up being on TV, on Mad TV. So it was Spy versus Spy, right?
Yes,
There's the guy in all black, the guy in all white, and they just go at each
forth.
other. That's what I envision when I think about AI.
Right. It's not. We're doing the same thing, right?
Yeah. So
we have to build the same types of tools, that the automation, the defenses, right? And it's a challenge, right? We're doing really well at it. We'll keep on doing better every moment we get a chance at it. You have to be able to react as quick as the attackers do, right?
Right.
And we have to be able to shut it down as soon as we detect it, and that's what we work on all the time.
Yeah. So that's one thing that, and you don't have to share any obviously like trade secrets or whatever, but how do you shut down a cyber attack? I mean, like, is it as simple as unplugging a computer, right? Pulling a computer off the network, like, and when you talk about seconds or minutes to do something before things get infiltrated and spread, how do you respond instantaneously, essentially, when there is a compromise? It just seems like a really daunting. I mean, speaking kind of outside looking in, it
Sure.
feels really daunting to be able to accomplish that.
Well, it goes with having the right tools,
Right.
having the right telemetry, and having the right team. So the 3 T's, we'll call it, right? So now we get the right tools, telemetry, and the right team that builds the detections around it, and automates the response. So some of that, what does that look like to stop an attack? It's isolating the system, essentially virtually unplugging it from the network, right? So we know we have this bad behavior that we can detect, we can validate to be true really quickly with that intelligence, right?
So bad behavior, is it really bad behavior, or is it kind of a false positive? Is
Correct.
What you're saying?
Yeah. How do we determine that? How fast can we determine that? Determines how fast we can take action on some potentially malicious threat actor. Right?
Okay.
So I think all of our research and development that we do at Proton is to go through and figure out, okay, how do we make these detections more, prove that they're true positives and not react to the false positives. So, because false positives is legit traffic, right?
Yeah.
And the way that we do that, at least at Proton, is we're focused on dealerships quite a bit. We know their business very well. We understand, the types of software they use, the types of actions we do. Going back to your earlier example, we fingerprint the work that all the dealership employees do. So we know what Greg's typically doing on his computer, and we know on that endpoint where he logs in, we know the activities we expect to see on an F&I guy's computer versus a sales guy versus the dealership, manager. Right?
Yeah.
So I think we have this knowledge that we can pull from and apply it directly to our dealerships. And when we see that malicious traffic, we can make a judgment call really quick through our automated tools, our intelligence that we've built, and also through our analysts who have to be the next tier 2 or 3 or super cybersecurity experts, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference, right? How fast can we react and isolate and then prove it's a true or false positive, and then false positives get people back to work if there was ever a false positive that blocked a computer.
Sure.
Or knock on wood, doesn't happen very often. But,
right. So if it is a true bad actor, then what, right? So we've removed that
we've
PC
removed
from
that PC from the computer, and then that's when our tools will help threat hunt through your environment to see, okay, what else may have happened on that dealership environment. How do we determine, is there something else? What's the history? What can we draw a timeline of events from that event that's a true positive? How did they get into that? What was it a phishing email that some user clicked on that got missed, right? And if it was, let's make sure that didn't get to anybody else. Or was it a person VPN'd in that with an account that was compromised? Is the firewall out of date? Shouldn't be if you're a Proton customer, but we've come into these things post event many times to take a look at it. So that could be figure out the whole timeline of events as quickly as possible. And the more data and telemetry we have, the easier and faster that is.
Yeah.
Right. And the more tools we can automate to stop it and clean it up if there was everything that's brand new, novel, we've never detected. And we do get to see those things.
Yeah.
Because the bad guys are making new attacks every time. They're changing the way they attack. So it's not a single fingerprint now that looks like the same as every other attack we've ever seen.
Right.
Right now it's a different end around, right? It's a different play in their playbook.
Right.
And so we have to have a different defense in our playbook.
Yeah. So how do you find that? Because historically, to your point, you'd have antivirus software on a PC, right? And it would have kind of these fingerprints for every piece of malware known to whatever provider you were using.
Yeah.
And if something matched that fingerprint, then it would block it, quarantine it, and say, hey, you need to get rid of this, or it's been quarantined, whatever. Mm-hmm. In today's world, you just mentioned, there are no fingerprints anymore. Yeah. They're all snowflakes, right? Every one of them is unique. So how do you identify that when there's nothing to match it to or match it against?
Yeah. So I think the fingerprint has changed a little bit. That's probably the best way to think about it. And so there's still actions that happen, and there's still mechanisms that need to get used. Like there's still persistence mechanisms or ways that the bad guys stay on your PCs, right? And there's still certain ways that they move around to other PCs to try to get a bigger foothold. So think about that. Those behaviors are what is the new fingerprint now. And so I think before, where you could find one piece of software that is the fingerprinted software that they're doing, now they're using all the native tools that they have, and now there's the behaviors that we're detecting.
Yeah.
And so there's frameworks that we utilize that help us fingerprint those behaviors and respond knowing that these are the behaviors that they're doing. While it looks, if you look at it in in a very single pane of glass, one endpoint, it maybe looks fine. But if you look at it across all the endpoints all at once and you see the same types of behavior that you don't expect, we shouldn't be using this command on all these PCs. That's a bad fingerprint of a behavior.
Yeah.
Now we can go in and say, okay, trace it back to the source. Where did it come in? How do we make sure that everybody's protected?
Yeah. So you're looking for trends or patterns, which when that's the case, it does seem like, going back to the AI conversation, that's where I would assume AI tools can have a really big impact, is identifying those trends and common behaviors to say, hey, alert.
I can, turn one of my actual, human agents on with an AI agent and look at these diverse data sets really quickly and ask the right questions to the data sets, right? I can say, show me this activity across all the endpoints that happened in the last so many minutes, and they can find that data really fast. Whereas before, that was a much more tedious process to find all that, right? So now that just speeds up our time and our research and our investigations that are human-led, and it also speeds up our threat hunts when we're looking for, hey, we have an idea of what could be in the industry right now. We've seen this in other places. Let's run this across all the dealerships that we protect all at one time. So even though that didn't happen to any of our dealerships, we've heard about it in the news.
Yeah.
Now, are any of our dealerships having the same exact new fingerprint? And we can automate that really fast.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good point too, is sort of the scale and what difference that makes, right? When you have so many touch points, you get so much more visibility. When you have that visibility, then you can proactively kind of apply these things versus reactively when it's like, oh, we got to unplug this PC or, take this PC off the network. And then we go do the same work over and over again. You can be proactive and say, oh, hey, dealer C over here, dealer A had this problem and you do too. So, we can identify it in a proactive manner versus a reactive manner.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be a dealer that has that problem. It could be any industry.
That's a good
problem,
point.
Right? So now, that's what we do anyways.
Right.
If we see that, let's go back to the firewall example from before, right? We see that, hey, this firewall has a new zero-day exploits, brand new. Nobody knows about it. Everything's patched and updated. You've done all the right things as an IT team or a security team, but now there's this new vulnerability that exists that somebody's using in the wild and attacking things. So now, we can go find that across our whole tool set, make sure your patch, okay, how do we mitigate it? How do we find the behaviors until the vendor releases a new patch, a new update, right? So now I think we can rapidly deploy and find those things way faster than ever before. And AI is one of those tools that can help us do that. Yeah,
that's great. All right, Sean, I'm going to pause because I took in a lot of information. I feel a lot smarter. I appreciate you sharing. What haven't we talked about that we should? What didn't I ask you about that I should have asked you about? Anything you want to hit on before we jump off of here? I again, like I said, I feel like this was helpful. I hope it was helpful for other people because it was helpful for me, learning and kind of just, maybe they're dumb questions, maybe they're not, but trying to understand a little bit better.
I think the things that need to be hit on for dealerships, looking for cybersecurity partners, what to look for in a cybersecurity partner.
Sure.
Your teams are great. They're great at selling cars. Maybe your vendors are great at the services that you provide. I think the question that you should always ask your vendors is, what are they doing to stay relevant? What are they doing? What's the next attack? What's the next way of doing things?
Yeah.
How are you going to compensate for that? How are you going to make sure that they're not the next victim, right? And I think it's having a strong, research and development team, or, making sure that they're not just reselling somebody else's tools, and telling you to go manage them, right?
Yeah.
So make sure that you're invested in a partner who's doing the research, the development, innovating all the way through. And I think that's a big takeaway that you'll see. Or, some IT teams, they're great, but cybersecurity is a profession of unto its own. It's not just the IT guy who does cybersecurity. So make sure that you're hiring the right people, or using the right vendors that are dedicated to that resource. Yeah.
Great. It's a great landing spot for this plane. So Sean Patronis, CISO at Proton Dealership IT and Cybersecurity. Thanks so much for joining me. It was fun. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks for having me.